If you had to tell one story that summed up who you were as a person, who you are for sure as a person, tell that story.
When I wake up every morning, I try and be more efficient than I was yesterday, and I try and be less of a piece of shit than I was yesterday. So if I can get answers to those two questions, I come out a better person at the end of it.
You can't put people in buckets, right? We all are a culmination of our experiences in our past and stuff like that, but we all have a brain, which kind of makes it hard for us to put anyone in a bucket because everyone is vastly different.
Welcome to No Universal Answers to the Universe, a video podcast and interview series with Taylor Hall and Kenneth Gibbons. Tonight our guest is Xavier. Xavier, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. How y'all doing tonight?
Good, man. Good. So Xavier, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of take us through what you got going on in your life right now. I know you're very busy. Try and walk us through what a day in the life of Xavier is, and then we'll dive into it a little bit deeper.
Okay, so right now I am the program director for YMCA branches Steiner and Marshall. So I'm overseeing two branches of the YMCA departments. I oversee sports programs. I oversee after-school programs for both branches, and for the Marshall branch, I oversee our summer program. And so right now we're in the midst of doing our soccer season, and we're just trying to get started with our soccer season, just getting reps together, ordering jerseys, trying to finish rosters, trying to find practice spots, just trying to get everybody's schedule together, trying to get coaches together, trying to make sure everybody has all their information. So that's what I do. I'm pretty much coordinate everything from painting the fields, from the nitty gritty, all the way to just sending out emails. So I'm after it, yeah.
How are you enjoying it so far?
I mean, it's pretty cool, man. It keeps me busy. It keeps me real busy, but I'm the type of person where I like to be out. I like to be about as a job. I can't sit too long. I don't mind, doing emails too much, but I can't sit too long. So I like being out and about. I like being on the field. I like painting the field. I like getting set up. I like getting everybody's jerseys together. So I think it's pretty cool, man. I like being this type of business.
So with that being said, I know this kind of stemmed from your initial position with the YMCA. Was this what you were aiming for? Was this your goal, or were you looking more to be on the coaching path?
For what I like to do, I would like to be able to be knowledgeable in all categories. So this is just a category that I could be able to be knowledgeable as far as my aspect of physical education, just being active, working with the kids in recreation departments in general. The coaching aspect is just another pathway that I have to also take in to put a notch on my belt to be knowledgeable in the aspects of what I ultimately want to be. But everything for me right now is just an experience. It's all an experience as much as it is a career builder for every step that I'm continuing to take right now.
So I don't know, once upon a time here in the last couple of years, you were going back to school and working on that. Where did that end up, and where are you with that as far as education?
So finishing up on my master's now. I actually was supposed to finish up in July of 2019 this summer, but I got the job around May. And right when I get the job, everything's just rolling. I'm rolling. T-ball's rolling is what season I had started working on, as long as finishing with after school, as long as also trying to get ready for summer camp. So everything was just rolling. And as it was rolling, I kind of got had to push back on the studies, but I still had the opportunity to finish up before 2020 of next summer. And so just through this time, until 2020. Next time around, I'm just going to, continue to put what I need to put everything together to finish out. It's only one class, it's not like a whole semester or anything like
Right.
that. But it was just the timing of this job and what this class entailed. I couldn't give both that much attention at the same time that they both needed. So
Right.
I mean, hey, I was like, job came first, in this aspect because I want to prove that I can do this job. I just got this job, so that's what I ultimately was thinking. So I put my pedal to the metal and started working on the job, man. So yeah, I had to take a step back on the school a little bit.
No, I think that's a responsible decision because what you're gaining through this job is experience. So they have these jokes and these memes going around where the people are like, "Hey, I've got my degree," and then the company that they're applying for says, "Well, I also want you to have 20 years of experience, and I want you to
Yeah,
be 25 years old."
yeah,
So you're
yeah,
getting experience. So, I mean, you're filling one of those buckets, and it's a
right.
very responsible decision not to overload yourself and fail at both things. So taking a step back, I think, is the right move. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of listeners that don't know you like I do. I've known Xavier for 16 years, 15 or 16 years now.
Yeah,
Went to middle school, high school, ended up at Georgia Southern together. Through all that, I've gotten to know you pretty well, but I also, Taylor got to know you at camp because you worked at the same camp that we did. Um,
right.
Throughout that whole process, you were always good at coaching, being a mentor to younger players in sports. But also I saw you flourish at camp. I thought I got to see a side of you that I never got to see before. You working with kids was really cool to see. Um, what's what is your drive and what is your motivation to work with kids? What are you trying to get out of it, and what do you hope they get out of it?
Well, ultimately, the key would be to give kids, students, campers, um, tools that I didn't have or that I felt like I needed at that age that I didn't get. So that's ultimately like what drives me to continue to do this job every day. To just always try to instill certain aspects or certain keys or certain tools that, like I said, that I felt like I should have received or could have received at that time or that age that some kids are getting now. So also for me, it's really fun. It's not a 9 to 5 job. It's a fun thing to do. I get to have fun. That was
Yeah,
most important to me, was trying to find what I wanted to do in my career that had kept having let me have fun. And this is one thing that let me have fun every day, and I just continue to have fun, whether it's working with them, working for them, trying to get games set up for them, just to see and enjoy kids smiling, whether it's playing sports, whether it's through campers and in the summer camp. It's awesome. Also to see the growing process from when they're little campers to when they continue to age up and eventually age out of certain camps. And it's awesome to see that growing process, and I'm glad to be a part of it, because um, kids really, they remember the they remember who taught them how to jump rope. They remember
yeah.
who taught them how to shoot the first basketball shot. You know, who taught them how to properly play defense. Things like that. Those are things that kids will never forget, and that's what I want to be when I'm talking to these kids or I'm a part of these kids' lives. That I want to be a part where they remember a good aspect for them in their lives. So yeah, that's why I do my job.
That's one thing that always surprised me going between summers at camp was you'd have
Yeah,
kids from the previous year run up and be like, "Hey, I missed you the past 11 months." And like in your
yeah,
head, you're an adult thing. You're like, "Hey, kid, I didn't think about you for the past 365 days." But the fact you have that much of an impact on people that they can
yeah,
remember you that clearly. How does
yeah.
it feel going from the camp job that we had to the Y job that you have now, where you're kind of doing the same work and you're impacting people in the same way? But you don't have to live on campus. You're not working 16-hour days. You get to go home and breathe at the end of every day. Is it better, worse, a completely different direction? How do you feel about the two different camp experiences?
Okay, so um, when I first started working for the YMCA, I did start as a summer camp counselor, and you know that was a probably 6 hour top work day that you would have, and it was pretty easy. You know that was cake. You know that wasn't nothing compared to nothing at all compared. And what also surprised me was the paycheck. That was nothing compared. So like it was very hard to get those hours in, but once I became program director for the summer camp and I had to run the summer camp, oh, that's when it turned into those 16-hour days. Um, and so as a program director, you know, we got to make sure rosters are right. We got to make sure our kids, we got to make sure we got the amount of kids, the correct amount of kids. We got to make sure everyone's signed in. We got to make sure we got enough food. We got to make sure we got enough food for allergies. We got to make sure we got enough for everybody's medication. We got to make sure we got enough Band-Aids. You know, we got to make sure we got enough write-up sheets, anything like that, behavior sheets, ouch reports. We got to make sure that we contact parents whenever an injury happens. And that was all me. Like, that was all that. I mean, I had help, not to say that was all me. You know, I did have help, you know, especially with my counselors as well. But, you know, on the aspect of coordinating, you know, that was pretty much all me, contacting parents, letting them know that this was happening to the kids. You know, they had a good day, yada, yada, yada. Field trips, you know, coordinating field trips, driving a bus, having swim day, having water day, setting up water day, cleaning up water day, cleaning up messes, cleaning up throw up, cleaning up anything. So, man, it was totally different because, like, as a counselor, you don't really have to worry about some of those things, you know. But as a program director, you know, in order for you to honestly continue to use this certain facility or to be able to just have a good repertoire with relationships with anyone that you're supporting around in this community, you know, you want to present a great camp, you know what I mean? So it's a lot more responsibility. Um, and it was crazy because every time I thought about as a coordinator running this YMCA camp, I thought about how it would be coordinating and how bigger aspect that is compared to what I'm doing. I know I'm tired, so I can only imagine what, you know, goes through because, you know, as of what I did, it was just a lot. It was a lot. And man, we did 10 weeks of summer camp. Yeah. 10 weeks. And it was good. It was good. You know, no crazy injuries. I can't say that no one through my whole entire camp, no one got any broken bones. You know, we did receive nosebleeds. But it was nothing, you know, nothing too crazy, you know. So it 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 was like running a big party, a big 10-week party, you know, as a coordinator. You know, I've never ran a party or I've never coordinated a party. You know, I've always went to parties, you know, and so as a counselor, that's what it was. You know, it was like going to someone's party that they coordinated. And as a coordinator, you know, you're presenting for 10 weeks. You got to present this, you know, this awesome camp. You got to make sure, you know, and so it was nerve wracking, but we made it through. Got some good reviews. I think from what I saw, the kids enjoyed it. You know, you have kids crying. I know you guys remember that. Having kids crying at the end of the camp, never wanting to leave, and yeah, our counselors crying too. You know, so it was awesome to see that. You know, it was awesome to be able to produce that as a coordinator.
So I got a couple of questions. So I'll make the comment first. When we were working at camp, so I got to see it from a counselor perspective, and then I was a tribal leader, so I was helping the program director and stuff like that. I can tell you that from a counselor perspective, it was a lot easier. Like you said, you're not, you know, required to be up 2 hours early to plan out the day, and you don't have to have backup plans for when it rains, and it rains every single day, you know. But I can tell you that twofold. Your first comment was about like talking about how the kids, you know, making them have an enjoyable experience. man, you could be at the 15-hour mark in a 16-hour day on like week 9, and there's that one kid that's like, come on, let's go, snag this person's flag in Wild Wild West,
Yeah.
and like somehow you kick it into another gear for that last hour.
Yeah.
And like nowadays I get off work and I just want to go home and go to sleep, and I'm just like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I used to literally run for 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it's just a whole different atmosphere. But I'll say that from a tribal leader perspective, being involved in that, it did feel like there was a lot more weight on your shoulders, because in some way, shape, or form, the level of success was partially your responsibility.
Yeah.
With that being said, in every job, as you progress up, there's more and more responsibility and stuff like that. What is the next step at the Y, or kind of, are you at the top level where you would want to be at the Y?
Well, just as far as my life and the pathway or the road that I'm trying to take, my next step would be to get my master's degree and utilize it. So, um, beginning to teach in the school system would be my next step. Uh, Location wise is what I'm like dreaming about now, is trying to figure out where I would want to do that at. Um, this area, I mean, I guess that area, it seems like a good area already with the connections that I have. But I do want to kind of venture out, for my age, and do kind of want to go out, see the world, do other things, or go somewhere else. Um, but yeah, the next step for me would be to start my teaching career for a good amount of years, to utilize my degree. I mean, that's what I got my degree for. That's what I got the master's for. So yeah.
Real quick, for the listeners out there, can you share with us what your undergrad degree was, and then what your master's degree is going to be?
Okay, so yeah, my undergrad and master's degree are in the same category. Health and physical education with that kinesiology, you know, uh, major. Um, Health and physical education is my undergrad and my master's degree.
So as far as teaching, I know obviously you'd want to be, I guess, a PE teacher and hopefully a coach. What other options are available to you? Could you be like a trainer? Could you be like, what could you be?
Yeah, and so that is the whole goal, is to, like I said, cover all categories. Um, Being a PE teacher is just one category. Being a coach is just one category. Becoming a personal trainer is just one category. Becoming a player development trainer is just one category. It's so many different categories that you can hit. Becoming a nutrition coach is just one category. So I would like to cover all categories. Physical education and health is an aspect, or like I said, starting pathway that you can take. I'm trying to utilize it as more than just a PE teacher, or
Mm-hmm.
trying to be seen as more than just a PE teacher, because you could do more with this than just being a PE teacher. It is one thing that you can do, and that's what it majority emphasizes. But you can also take this physical education degree and use it in other aspects, um, in my belief, and that's what I'm trying to do now.
Now,
So go ahead,
okay.
Taylor.
When pushing for higher education, do you have a legacy in mind already? Do you see trophies being added to your school's collection? Do you see sports careers that you've started? What kind of pushed you to go back for that master's? Because I personally lack that motivation in my own professional development.
Well, for me, what pushed me to go back to get my master's, I would think, would just to be, I mean, one, of course, more money. Um, that's the awesome part of it. But it was just to really, it was to get that higher education, just to see what that next level was. Um, and for me, it was a sweet deal also. It was just a 2-year online, education degree. And for the timing that happened, I had the opportunity and chance to, take this step. throughout my family, only a couple of my family members have probably gotten their master's degree. So I wanted to take this opportunity step to get this master's degree. But you had to honestly get that higher education to see what that higher education degree would be. I'm tired of school in general as well. Like I was through with it. I didn't want to do it anymore. But it like I said, it was just a sweet deal, 2 year online. Um, I took that opportunity and I just ran with it. So it'll pay off in the long run, as everybody says, and that's what I'm hoping for, man. Because after this, man, I'm done. I'm done with school. No more school.
No Dr. Xavier.
No. I was thinking about it. I was. It depends on how long is what it depends on. So it could be specialist. I was thinking about that as well. It all depends on how long and the timing of where I'm at in my life. But I don't take it away to continue and grab more higher education. It's only another notch on my belt. So I'll do it if the deal is right.
That's funny. Before we started this, I said that I was going to call you Xavier the whole time. I normally call you X. If you got your doctorate and went to a college setting, you would be Professor X. We normally ask these questions at the end, but it's kind of flowing with our conversation right now. What is your 5-year goal? What's your 10-year goal? And does it involve going beyond the high school level, or are you looking to maybe pursue something in college?
So my 5-year goal would to be getting into my physical education teaching career. All right. And so what I plan on doing is just covering all aspects and covering all connections of the area that I'm already in now. And so my ultimate goal, I should just start with my ultimate goal and break it down, because my ultimate goal would be to own my own sports facility, covering from younger kids to even possibly training adults. So I would like to own my own facility along with a couple of partner members. And throughout that time, what I'm doing now is kind of building for that future by creating these experiences with these kids and parents and adults. And hopefully as everyone gets older, and through the connections that I make through doing summer camps, doing sports programs, teaching, and the connections that I make throughout all these pathways that I'm trying to go through, I plan on opening a sports facility and eventually run that for, like I said, the adults training, whether that's basketball, football, soccer, golf, tennis, MMA, nutrition. We want to cover everything. We want to also do rehabbing. So we want to touch all bases and be able to be one big unit.
Right.
So that's the ultimate goal. But to break that down into the 5-year goal, I'm just building connections for right now.
So you said we a couple of times. Is there already people that you have in mind that you want to venture with, or have you not decided, or is it up in the air?
So just yeah, I do have, a couple people who I've already decided to venture with, and also just friends in general and what they're doing and what their aspects are in their life. So for you in aspects of your civil engineering, I'm pretty sure you have the belief and connections, and throughout the time, at the point that we possibly want to build, we could possibly go through you at a better deal, at a better cost, at a better price. You could possibly also join into, the business venture, and we could all be able to succeed and be successful while also trying to, be able to keep it cost as low as possible. Everybody brings in their connections. And so with your civil engineer background, you and Denzel, or anybody, you could bring in your connections. Anybody with my connections, whether that's in all aspects of health, nutrition, physical education, the fitness background in total in general. Me, Randy, Devin, Denzel, we all can all pitch in, and we all have our own resources, and we all right now in where we're at in our lives, we are all getting our connections, we're all networking, we're all grabbing that experience, and to the point where you, like you said, in this 5 and 10 year goal, you can be able to run your own facility. You know, right now everybody's working a piece of their facility. You're working in your civil engineer portion of your facility. I'm working in my sports program portion of my facility. At certain points, you can be able to run your own civil engineer facility and be able to build your own building. At some point, I can be able to run my own sports program and be able to, you know, produce my own athletes and produce my own type of summer camps that I want. And so all this is just a big circle,
Right.
in a sense, you know what I mean? And so, like I said, right now we're all just building on networking and building, and then eventually be able to be on top and, you know, be the bosses. You know, right now we're just working for the bosses, so eventually we'll be the bosses. So that's the plan, man.
I gotcha.
There's a social network theory, the 6 degrees of separation, or the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, of
Yeah.
you can get to pretty much anybody on the planet through 6 individual connections from one person to the next. If you could add a couple of people, or even just narrowing it down to 1 or 2, who would you add to your professional network now? Be it a business mogul or a celebrity. Do you have people in mind? If you could build a dream team, what makes up a perfect organizational model?
I don't know. I think it would be Bill Gates. I don't know.
I mean, that takes care of funding for the rest of your life.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like for sure. Like if I had Bill Gates that was able to like say, yeah, I'll jump into your business, then like, yeah, I'm pretty set right there.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, because, you know, most people would take that question and then just jump at, you know, whatever celebrity or whatever, you know, sports athlete or whoever who would represent what they're trying to accomplish at the end goal.
Yeah.
But your response is more like catered towards building it organically, and I mean, I think that's really important. And for anybody who's listening, from a business perspective, you always want to focus on building your business and your business model. Trying to take shortcuts is never going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think, you know, being able to grow and produce your program is what's most important versus trying to get big quick, and, you know, trying to get your name out there, trying to get your name out the fastest. I'm trying to do it by honestly, you know, growing through these children's experiences, from, like I said, through these summer camps, when I see them last year, this year, as I see them grow. That's how I'm trying to build my program. That's how I'm trying to build, because ultimately, if it comes down to it, where these children want to train or, you know, become, you know, take sports a little bit serious, then I can be that trainer. You know, we can be that guy. This can be our facility. They already know us. They already know me, you know, and it's just like that. You know, I'm trying to start in, you know, this area that I know now, and, you know, from there, you know, then continue to work out. But, you know, like I said, we all right now have our own networking spots. We all have our networking positions, like where you're at in your city, you know. So as we continue to grow, we'll continue to hit those cities that all our resources are in. So that's, I think, how we're going to try to look at it and try to attack it.
and for you know, your career, my career as well, Taylor, you can speak up. I can't really attest for you, but when you're building your network, what you're really building is your credibility, right? You're building that trust factor. These people, you know, when you network, you can build, you know, you can build these relationships that are just that. Like, someone passes you in the street and they say, "Oh, that's Xavier. I know Xavier. He works at the YMCA." Right? What you're really trying to build is that credibility and that trust, so that when they see you, they're like, "Oh, that's Xavier. He really knows what he's doing when it comes to, you know, sports, training, nutrition." You know what? I was talking to somebody last week and they were looking for that. I'm going to recommend him to Xavier.
Yeah.
And that's what you're trying to build, is that credibility and that trust.
Yeah.
Taylor, I'm not real sure how important that is in your line of work.
Oh, no, it is. I definitely don't network as much as you guys do, but that just led to a segue. I wanted to do a roundtable question for everybody. What's both of your guys' elevator pitch? If you had to pick either the 30-second like short speech or the 2 bullet points that represent you as a professional, what do you want people to say? Oh, that's Kenneth. Oh, that's Xavier. He knows X. This being a variable, not the individual in this case.
You can go ahead, Xavier.
So for my 2 bullet points, like I said, I think I would do dedication and consistency, because that's something that when you're trying to build credibility, that's something that you need. You need to have dedication towards what you're trying to do or what you're trying to basically sell. And then you need to have consistency as far as doing that, having success out producing that good summer program, or having success at training that athlete or training that weight loss journey. Um, it ultimately, like I said, those 2 words ultimately revolve around what my job and what I want to kind of do and kind of foresee myself succeeding in.
So for me, consistency is always a hard one for me.
Yeah.
I always do better when my back's against the wall or when somebody thinks I can't do something. So like, we've talked about how I feel like I'm in a lull right now in my current life because I'm succeeding at a lot of different things. And I see that my dedication is falling off. So I would say for me, though, the 2 bullet points would probably be, clutch, and I'm very, very driven. Like I said, I perform better. I'm at my absolute best when my back's against the wall, when there's a deadline involved, when somebody is like, "Oh, you can't get that done," and then I get it done. So if I'm in an elevator pitching myself, I would always pitch myself as, at the end of the day, whether it's, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm the guy that can get it done. I do need deadlines though, and I do need a little bit of, well, even if it's like self-driven or whatever, I need some sort of level of doubt that I can do it. That way I can push myself over the edge. What about you, Taylor?
Yeah. What about you, IT?
For me, if I want word of mouth to spread my name further than I can push it, I want people to think that I'm efficient, and I want people to think that I'm hungry, because I don't want the opposite to ever come out, that they say, oh, Taylor is complacent or Taylor is lazy. Every time when I show up in the morning, I need to let them know that I want everything they can possibly put on my plate, and I'm going to do it as quickly as I can. And then I want the stuff that's on that guy's plate, because I'm trying to create value here. So if I can pass that on to the point that my name goes ahead of me and says that I am hungry, then I'm just hoping that things will kind of gravitate towards that.
Yeah. I will say that too, Taylor, is to take food off of somebody else's plate, man, that, not in a negative way, in a positive way. I enjoy it so much. Like when you can sit there and you're like, man, I want your job, and then you put a deadline on it. I want your job in 6 months, and then you can work towards that. I enjoyed that because it just it's the thrill of the chase,
That's the crazy part. Probably it's probably been a couple months from last year, but around May of last year I came home, and that's when I started working at a summer camp as a counselor. And through working at the YMCA as a summer camp counselor, I did refereeing. Then I did camp counselor at this branch, and I worked over here at this branch as fitness and wellness. And so I continued to do all these jobs, and eventually within this year, I, got presented the opportunity to do program director position. And so while you talking about that, it was so surreal to me that all that happened in that year, because I came home and I literally didn't have a job a year ago, and so from there I started working. And, as you see where I'm at now, man, like I said, man, consistency and dedication, or that hunger and efficiency, it can push you to get, and continue to climb that ladder and succeed, man. Because, like I said, man, you can start from nothing, but with hunger, with efficiency, man, you can continue to gravitate up the ladder.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I went through something similar, and I haven't really thought about it much. But last month, Randy had asked you if you wanted to come visit, right? And so Randy and Ruben came up here, and our other friend Mascana came up here, and we were just hanging out, and Mascana brought up the fact that he's like, man, you've really made it, is what he said. And I said, what do you mean? He said, man, it wasn't too long ago that you were homeless, you was living on our couch a little bit, and then like you took that job, and it all took off from there. And I was like, that's a really good point. It was like one day I was legitimately homeless. Randy and Ruben and Mascana let me stay on their couch, and I was trying to go get my master's degree. I was supposed to be on a free ride, and then the free ride didn't cover all the costs associated with it, and I couldn't afford it. And like that was like rock bottom. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, I had a job, and I was driving with Denzel out to Louisiana to start this career in the field. And I mean, it's always, in my opinion, humbling. And, sometimes it feels really good to look back on that and say, even if you're not where you want to be at the end of the day, you've moved from, point A to point B, and you can at least, retrospectively look at it and say, hey, I've done something right,
Yeah, for sure, man. I know it. To see you, that I always, I always hear you for your stories, because to see you here and to see you where you're at now in your life, and to honestly see where you were at, it's awesome. You know what I mean? Like it's awesome to see you now. It's awesome to see you be able to support your family, because there's a point in time where you weren't able to do any of those things. It's awesome to see you stay dedicated, on the aspect of this education route. Many people would have jumped off the bandwagon a long time ago and probably started doing the wrong thing, to grab their money, man. But you stuck with it, and, to see yourself get the money, be able to support your family, live good, live happy, drive a nice car. It's super awesome, man. And I can't do anything but continue to smile once I see you, when I see Denzel, when you see Gabby, when you see Randy, when you see everybody, going towards the right direction in life. It drives you to want to start doing that too. But like I said, man, to hear you and to see where you came from, to see where you're at now, man, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be a part of your life, man. It's a blessing to see you, man. It's a blessing to watch you succeed and blossom, man. I'm just like, I'm in awe of being able to succeed your story, to being able to actually be there in certain events in your life throughout this 16, 15 year that we've known each other. I'm blessed to, be a part of your success story, man, because that's one of those movies that you can make, man. You can make that. So I think that's awesome, man. I just want to tell you, man, that it's awesome to see you and to see you do everything that you're doing with, doing the scholarships as well. Everything, man. 'Cause like I said, I remember when, you couldn't rub 2 quarters together, man. It was hard times, so
Yeah.
it's awesome. It's so awesome to see that now and see you where you're at now.
I first of all, I appreciate it. And I would say that, you guys as a whole played a major role in that. I was talking with Taylor before you hopped on, and I said that, a lot of the people that we're going to be having on our podcast and have already had on our podcast, like, Ruben and Ebony and now you, and we're going to have Denzel and Randy on here at some point, also Gabby. I always had that support system. You guys were so positive. You guys were the guys that like wouldn't let me give up. And it was all, small steps here and there. I remember we had that cookout, that family cookout at Georgia Southern with you and your brother and all of us at Aspen. And Man, I didn't have no food. I was like, I was like, I'll grill, but I couldn't bring nothing to the party, so I grilled because like I could offer that, and like I didn't have any food, you know, and it's one of those situations like you guys probably don't realize how much you helped me along, even if it was just like a pat on the back here or, you know, you got it, Kenneth, you know, there and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
like, you know, and I'm so happy because you said, you know, talking about me succeeding, but you also mentioned Denzel and Gabby and Randy and what Ruben's working on and stuff like that. Like I've been so blessed as a whole, just like what you're talking about. I don't think I've ever met somebody else who has a group of friends who are so successful and like so dead set on achieving their goals. And we all have
Right.
vastly different goals, you know,
Yeah.
but we're all doing it, and we're not, you know, we're not letting anything stop us or hold us back. And, you know, we all came from a similar area, whether our backgrounds and our childhood are the same or not. We all grew up in Grovetown. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I want, you know, just to kind of jump off on that sidetrack. You had mentioned the scholarship. You know, that's what we want those kids to understand when they're applying for that scholarship is it's not just another scholarship. It's from people who went to that school. We graduated from there. We've sat in their seats. We know what it's like, and we're not letting anything prevent us from getting where we're trying to go, and neither should they, you know?
Yeah.
Taylor, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to throw in there.
So Xavier, something that we've trying to build on with the guests we've had on is the lower points, those rock bottom moments that we've grown from, and those seem to be where the most poignant life lessons come from. Do you have any moments in your story that you feel comfortable sharing of not necessarily where you would have crashed, but that kind of phoenix rise coming back up, things that you've learned from recovering from failure throughout your life?
Oh yeah. You know, it was a point in time. It was just my rock bottom. I mean, you know, there's worse rock bottoms than my rock bottom, but I would have to say my rock bottom would be my sophomore year. Sophomore year, finishing up at Valdosta State. I was going through a time of trying to figure out if I still wanted to play football. I just broke my arm. I'm still going through rehab. I'm, you know, trying to finish up rehab. Um, Looking at the process and seeing how long I felt like it was going to take me to get back on the field, and where I was already at my position, where I was already at on the field, having to fight back and go through that, while also kind of seeing if I still wanted to play with this certain injury and what it entailed. But through that, you know, I stopped kind of caring about going to classes, not really focusing on classes. And so I would have to say I finished out my spring semester with a 1.9 and ended up on academic probation. I had to stay and kind of work through the summer to get my GPA back up. And that's when I kind of ultimately transferred to Georgia Southern, was to kind of get a new start on just my, you know, my college career and where it was going. So I ended up passing that summer course at Valdosta State. So I transferred over, started with a 2.0, started over, and from there, kind of, you know, got the ball rolling. But yeah, once I ended up on academic probation, it kind of made me sit down and really see, because what I was doing and what I was telling my parents, or, you know, what everybody thinks I was doing, two totally different things. So it was kind of really coming down to figuring out if school if, you know, getting this education degree was what I really wanted to do, or if what I was doing was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, because, you know, I couldn't do both at the same time. And so I ultimately chose getting this education degree because, my parents, my parents have fought so hard to raise me and instill the morals and values in me. So it kind of, would disappoint me to disappoint them, that, they've spent this much time and invested this much time in me, and, to be something that they didn't see me to be is not something that I could, do or be. So yeah, that's what kind of ultimately got me up out of getting that rock bottom. But oh yeah, hitting that academic probation was my worst.
And then since now you're on the track that you want to be on, you're heading up on master's program, you're in a program director role instead of a more hands-on role. Being on the other side of it, what have you learned in that process, kind of climbing back out of that?
Just like I said earlier with my 2 bullet points, dedication and consistency. That is the only way to honestly succeed, whether you're starting from the bottom, whether you're at the middle, whether you're already, trying to get to the top. The only way you're going to get there is with dedication and consistency. So that's what really dug me out of these holes. While also grabbing a goal of, trying to succeed for, the undergrad degree, trying to succeed for the job, trying to succeed for the master's degree. There was a goal, that was your goal, to create that hunger to get the dedication and consistency. But ultimately, that's what kept me going, was dedication and consistency to get out of that rock bottom moment.
So with that being said, now that you're, like Taylor said, on the other side, if there's tons of I don't like using the word kids in this context. There's tons of young adults out there that are going through college, right? And I call them young adults because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are making the decisions that are going to shape their lives, regardless of who's paying for it, who's telling them what to do. They're the ones that have to make those decisions. I knew tons of people who got put on academic probation. My freshman year of college, my roommate got put on academic probation like right off the rip, and he turned it around and stuff like that. But I mean, there's people who don't turn it around and who don't think that that piece of paper is as important as it is.
Yeah.
What words of advice can you offer them?
Well, I can honestly say that if if it was that kid that was about to start school, I would honestly, explain to him that make sure this is something that you want to do. Don't look at it as just as a college experience. You're going in there, there's a deadline, there's a time clock, because you don't want to be having to pay this money or that much amount of money back to whoever you may be borrowing it from. So make sure that when you do step onto this college campus or you do start applying for FAFSA, that this is something that you really want to do and that you're going to take these first 2 semesters seriously as a freshman, because in my aspect, that's the most important piece. That's the most important. That starting point is very crucial to me. So on that aspect, I would have to make sure to tell them that make sure this is something you want to do. If not, there are other alternative routes, with tech school, or just go ahead and grabbing your associate's degree in general to see if this is something you want to do. You don't have to just go and try to say, let me go to this big university. So I will also tell that freshman that there are alternative routes to getting other things that you want. You could go and just grab certifications for certain things versus, having to go and you think you're needing a degree. So everything, with a degree, all types of paperwork, degree, certification, they all complement each other. Degrees, certifications, and resources that you have all complement each other when you're going for these networking and jobs and aspects. But, getting a degree is just one way of doing it.
Right.
Going to this college university is one way of doing it. Look at these universities. All these universities have certain programs or are known for certain programs. Don't go to this university because it's close to home. If this civil engineering is something that you want, look at all the universities that emphasize in civil engineering, figure out which one's the best one for you before deciding to, just stick at home. So that's what I know a lot of people do. And that's what kind of one thing I wanted to kind of get away from when I was going to apply for college was I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be at home
Right.
when I was going to be a freshman. So when I had the opportunity to go, I took it. So that's one thing I think that I also would like to tell kids is take that opportunity to go and figure out how to be an adult on your own, by yourself. You're always going to have your mom and dad on the phone, but that first year at 18, 19, 20, those are crucial moments to figure out how you can do on your own. So, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I'll go ahead and say too, I completely agree with you. A lot of people nowadays feel like they have to go to school and get that 4-year degree, and I agree. I don't think they do. With one caveat, I would say that you need to figure out something, whether it's
Yeah.
a certification, whether it's a trade school,
Yeah.
whether it's a tech school, whether it's an associate's degree, and it's okay to take time to figure that out, as long as you don't put yourself in a hole. So with that being said, like, you know, don't have kids before you make that decision, right? And don't go out there and get yourself in trouble. Like, don't get arrested and get charged with something. Don't
Yeah.
do those types of things, because those are the types of things that will end up putting you in a hole, and it'll put you in that position. And what I mean by putting you in a hole is you will have to immediately start working a minimum wage job. And
Yeah.
once you start working a minimum wage job and you start taking on that responsibility to pay bills, and you're caring for somebody else, like if you have a kid or whatever, or if you're having to pay penalties and fees and stuff like that, and lawyers and stuff like that, once you take that on, it is darn near impossible for you then to go out and go back to school,
Yeah.
right? Because you're already in a hole. And I've seen that happen to people, and people who had good heads on their shoulders, who, I fully believe if they had been given, a second chance or given an additional year to make that decision, they probably would have decided, hey, I need to do something here.
Yeah.
But once you get buried in that hole, I mean, Xavier, you know as well as I do, I would have a hard time fitting a list of names in a 30-minute period of time of people who are still in Augusta because of that. And I can guarantee you that 90% of that list of people don't want to be there, because those people aren't
Right.
doing what you're doing. They're not doing what Randy's doing. They're just working minimum wage jobs. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it's probably not where they want to be.
Right.
Right. So, don't put yourself in a hole that you can't get out of, and don't put yourself behind the 8 ball before you have the opportunity to even make that first decision.
Oh yeah, for sure. They my mother even explained to me. I think she said it best that you if Walmart, if a garbage man, whatever you pick, um, be that and build in that career field. If you're going to be a garbage man, all right, be a garbage man, but then, be in control and coordinate, a certain district of the garbage. Continue to build on that aspect. Don't just stick and do a 20-year career at being that garbage man. Build on something. If you're just going to be that 20-year garbage man, then you're not going to be. It's going to be hard for you to support a family if you do have kids. So yeah, if it's not college, if it's not certification, if it is McDonald's worker, be that fry cook, but build on that career path.
Right.
don't just continue to be that fry cook for that 20 years. I think that's what some people would get stuck on is they're there for 20 years at that same spot. No, like build. There's a reason. To grab that certification or whatever you need to grab to build on your career, and I think that's also one thing that kind of pushed me to get this master's degree is because I had the opportunity now to build on my career at this moment. And so that's why I took this opportunity to build on my career. So now that, when it comes time later on in life and I am trying to support a family, I'm not trying to build on my career by trying to support on my family. So.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. I just quickly pulled it up just so we could throw some facts out here, and I wasn't speaking incorrectly. A McDonald's district manager makes on average $66,000 a year. That's really darn good money. So to your point, Xavier, it's not all about really where you start. It's just you got to have that drive, motivation, and like you said, that consistency. And instead of approaching every single day at McDonald's as a fry cook as a negative, set those goals.
Yeah.
And that's really good advice. I've never heard advice like that before because, people always tell you to steer clear of the minimum wage jobs, but that is a really good point that you make. You can make a career out of something like that as long as you work your way up.
Oh, yeah.
Don't settle for being a garbage man. Build a garbage empire.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
So my not many people know this, but my real dad, his first job was he was working at a garbage company with it's a really weird backstory. We won't get into it, but with the guy that was at that time married to my mom, and his dad owned that garbage company. Well, they made enough money, working that garbage route or whatever, that they ended up turning their facility into a propane tank distribution center, and they ended up building that up enough to where they sold it and made tons of money off of it.
Yeah.
But they started off picking up people's trash,
Yeah.
So like there is ways to do it. You have to be vigilant, and you have to make sure that you don't get short-sighted and you keep your eye on the prize at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Taylor, if you don't have anything else, I was going to get into the part of our podcast where we talk about giving our former selves advice. You have anything else, Taylor?
No, let's go straight into it.
All right, Xavier, knowing what you know now and where you're at now, what advice would you give middle school Xavier, and what advice would you give senior in high school Xavier?
The middle school Xavier, I would have to give the advice of that keyword of consistency. I think in middle school, that's when things kind of started slowing down as far as not practicing on my skills the same, not being as serious in school anymore, and eventually led into high school. So I think that word consistency would kind of, if it was anything that to kick me in my butt or whatever, it would be consistency at that middle school age. And then at that senior age, I think one thing I would have to tell myself would be the memories. Kind of, I felt like I could have grabbed a little bit more memories in that senior in that senior year than what we did or what I did in general. So I think those are the two things I would tell myself.
Okay, and you mentioned the consistency and not focusing on schoolwork. So I'm going to open it back up to a few more questions if you don't mind. So, do you mind sharing with us what your high school GPA was?
Oh, so that's a great question. I couldn't even tell you what it was. I probably started off with a 2.5, 2.6, going into college.
Okay.
So just average.
Okay. So I only bring that up because
or below average in a sense.
I only bring that up because, you know, a lot of people classify me as intelligent because, you know, I got an engineering degree and I have a really high GPA. I put a lot of value in being intelligent and having a high IQ on sports because in a classroom setting, at least in my opinion and what I saw of it over the years, was you're given a problem and you have the whole class period to figure it out, right? Or you can go home and it's homework, whatever, and you have all this time to figure it out. And in my mind, you have all this time, you have all these resources, anybody could eventually get to the right answer. Okay. I put a lot of value in high IQ in sports because you have to make the decision within 1 second, right? You have to, you play quarterback in high school, you have to know every route that 4 or 5 different receivers are running at a given time, and you have to know where they're at in those routes at every 1 second increment, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to make that decision, and you have to make that decision in a second. On a basketball court, you have to know what play you're running. You have to know where 4 other players are going to be. You have to read the defense, and you have to make a decision. And in basketball, it might not be in 1 second. It might be in 3 seconds, but you have to make that decision like that. So I always value that type of intelligence because all the other stuff, you know, I learned all these engineering formulas and all that stuff. If I have to use an engineering formula, I Google it.
Yeah.
Right? The information's out there. How you apply it is what's going to make the difference, in my opinion. And I would say that throughout, you know, all the time that I've known you, you are absolutely one of the most intelligent people I know. And you know, working with you on quarterback skills and drills and playing basketball with you in high school, like it was all there. Even if you couldn't knock down, you know, 50% of your threes or knock down 75% of your free throws, it was all there. Like intelligence wise, IQ wise, across the board, you're one of the most intelligent people I know. So I would say to kids who are, I'm not telling people not to try, so don't get me wrong there, but kids who struggle in school, who, you know, make their 2.5s, the 3.0s, whatever, don't take that as you're not intelligent. You know, take that as you might not be able to do exactly what's being requested of you, but that might not be what you know, at the end of the day is what your career is going to focus on, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was sitting in a class taking a history test, and I'm just like, being an engineer, I never, ever in a million years would need to know who the 17th president is, you know? Like, so also as a kid or you know, even as a young adult going into college, be cognizant of that and try and cater what you're doing in the classroom towards what it's going to help you with in your career.
Yep. Don't waste no time.
No Universal Answers to the Universe is an interview series by Taylor Hall and Kenneth Gibbons, which releases on YouTube and all podcast platforms every Monday. If you have any questions or would be interested in being a guest on the show, please contact us at nouniversalanswers@gmail.com or via our Instagram page at no_universal_answers. Thank you for listening and have a great night.